Hello, distinguished listeners. Welcome to today's edition of our podcast, where we examine issues and personalities shaping the future of Nigeria. In today's episode, we take an analytical look at two of Nigeria's most controversial and influential activist figures in recent years, Martin's Vincent Otse, popularly known as VeryDarkMan, and Omoyele Sowore. To their supporters, they are fearless patriots, courageous voices speaking truth to power, and defenders of the ordinary Nigerian citizen. To their critics, they are confrontational figures whose methods sometimes generate unnecessary tension and controversy. But beyond emotions and political sentiments, who are these men? What motivates their activism? Are they genuinely committed to the Nigerian cause? And what does their emergence tell us about the future of Nigeria? Let us examine the facts. The rise of citizen activism in Nigeria. Nigeria has witnessed many waves of activism throughout its history. From the anti-colonial struggles led by nationalists to the pro-democracy movements against military rule, activism has always been an important force for social change. However, the digital age has transformed activism. Today, smartphones, social media platforms, podcasts, blogs, and online videos have become powerful tools for exposing corruption, amplifying public grievances, and demanding accountability. It is within this environment that figures like VeryDarkMan and Omoyele Sowore have emerged as influential voices. The social media crusader. VeryDarkMan rose to prominence through social media. Unlike traditional activists who operate through organized movements, he built his influence directly through online engagement. His style is direct, aggressive, emotional, and often controversial. His supporters admire him because he addresses issues that many Nigerians believe are ignored by mainstream institutions. He has exposed alleged scams, challenged influential individuals, questioned celebrities, criticized public officials, and spoken against social injustices. Many young Nigerians identify with him because he appears fearless. In a society where many people fear speaking against the powerful, VeryDarkMan projects the image of a citizen who cannot be intimidated. His followers often see him as a symbol of resistance against impunity. They argue that his activism gives ordinary people a voice and compels institutions to respond to issues they might otherwise ignore. Omoyele Sowore.
2026.
Omoyele Sowore represents a different tradition of activism. As a student leader, journalist, publisher, and politician, Sowore has spent decades challenging governments and advocating democratic reforms.
And I'm an example of it.
He founded
that in 2026,
investigative
I still get
journalism
clamped
and
into
exposing
detention for
corruption.
speaking
Over the years, Sowore has become
for
one of
the Nigerian
Nigeria's
people.
most recognizable
I still get
democracy
tried
activists.
in all these their foolish courtrooms for calling a criminal a criminal. Revolution.
Led campaigns, challenged political authorities, and even contested for the presidency. Supporters view him as a man who has consistently stood against corruption and bad governance, regardless of which political party is in power. Unlike many activists who become silent after gaining influence, Sowore has maintained a relatively consistent position of opposition to government excesses. This consistency has earned him respect among many Nigerians who value principle over political convenience. The common thread between both men. Despite their different backgrounds and methods, both VeryDarkMan and Sowore share certain similarities. First, they challenge authority. Second, they appeal strongly to young Nigerians who feel excluded from political and economic opportunities. Third, they use media as a tool of accountability. Fourth, they position themselves as defenders of ordinary citizens against powerful institutions. Most importantly, both men reflect a growing public frustration with corruption, insecurity, unemployment, poverty, and weak governance. Their popularity is not simply about their personalities. It is also about the social conditions that make their messages resonate. When citizens lose confidence in institutions, they often turn to independent voices whom they believe can speak on their behalf. Are their intentions genuine? This is perhaps the most important question. Only individuals themselves can fully know their intentions. However, observers often evaluate sincerity through consistency, sacrifice, and commitment. Both VeryDarkMan and Sowore have faced legal challenges, public criticism, arrests, and significant opposition. Their supporters argue that these experiences demonstrate genuine commitment to their causes. They believe neither man would willingly endure such pressures if personal gain were the sole motivation. Critics, however, argue that activism can sometimes become intertwined with personal branding, popularity, or political ambition. This criticism is not unique to these two figures. It is a debate that has followed activists around the world throughout history. Ultimately, Nigerians must judge them based on evidence, consistency, and outcomes rather than emotions alone. The government's perspective. Governments generally have a complicated relationship with activists. On one hand, democratic governments recognize the constitutional rights of citizens to free expression, peaceful protest, and civic engagement. On the other hand, governments often view certain activist activities as disruptive, inflammatory, or potentially threatening to public order. This tension is not unique to Nigeria. It exists in many democracies around the world. Supporters of government actions often argue that public institutions must maintain stability and prevent misinformation. Supporters of activists argue that accountability and transparency cannot exist without strong criticism of those in power. The challenge lies in balancing security, freedom of expression, and democratic accountability. A healthy democracy requires both responsible governance and responsible activism. What their activism reveals about Nigeria. The popularity of VeryDarkMan and Sowore reveals several important realities. First, Nigerians are increasingly demanding accountability. Second, citizens are becoming more politically aware. Third, social media has permanently changed the relationship between leaders and the people. Fourth, younger generations are less willing to remain silent about perceived injustices. These developments suggest that the future Nigerian citizen will be more informed, more vocal, and more engaged than previous generations. The future of Nigeria. What does the future hold? Nigeria remains a nation of immense potential. Despite its challenges, it possesses enormous human capital, natural resources, entrepreneurial energy, and cultural influence. The emergence of outspoken activists may actually signal democratic growth rather than democratic decline. Strong democracies are often characterized by active citizens who question authority and demand better governance. However, activism alone cannot solve national problems. Real progress requires collaboration among government institutions, civil society organizations, businesses, religious leaders, traditional rulers, and citizens. Constructive criticism must be accompanied by constructive solutions. Protest must be matched by policy ideas. Accountability must be combined with responsibility. If this balance is achieved, Nigeria's future can be brighter than its present. Conclusion. Whether one agrees with VeryDarkMan and Omoyele Sowore or not, their influence on contemporary Nigerian discourse cannot be ignored. They have become symbols of a broader national conversation about justice, accountability, governance, and the future of the country. History often remembers societies not only by their leaders, but also by those citizens who challenged leaders to do better. As Nigeria continues its democratic journey, voices like these will remain part of the national conversation. The ultimate question is not whether activists should exist. The real question is whether Nigeria can harness citizen activism and governmental authority together in building a nation where justice, opportunity, accountability, and prosperity become realities for all. Thank you for listening. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and continue believing in the possibility of a better Nigeria. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.